It's 10 a.m. on Monday the 10th of June and already I am livid this morning. I was up early to take my son back to school in Sheffield, and on the way back I decided to listen to Radio 4 just to, I don't normally listen to mainstream media, but I just wanted to tune in to see what kind of propaganda was being pumped out. And I was absolutely astonished to hear the presenter showcasing the party political leader interviews that they had lined up. So they said, we have all of the 7 party leaders, we have in-depth interviews with each of them, we really encourage you to listen. And he said something along the lines of, it's important you listen so you can decide who is going to rule over you. Now I'm going to find the clip of that and I'm going to play it to you so that you can hear that. I may have got the wording slightly incorrect, but that was certainly the gist of the message.
And at a time when we're watching politics get more angry, more extreme, look at what we've seen overnight from Europe, it's just worth, I think, pausing to thank the fact we live in a country in which, yes, the people who want to rule over us give us the time to cross-examine them. Yes, the people who want to rule over us.
And this is the PSYOP, folks. This is what is being pumped out. This is the mind program that when you vote, you are giving your power away. That is not the case. Your MP, your Member of Parliament, your government are public servants. They are there to act in the best interests of the people. They are not there to act in the best interests of big corporations or trade unions or party politics or what's right for their wealthy mates in business. They are there as public servants, as representatives of the people. So we have to be really conscious of these mind control psyops which are being pumped out, which create the illusion that when you vote, after this election, essentially what you're doing is creating carte blanche for whoever you vote for, or whoever wins, in fact, indeed, for whoever wins to do what the hell they like for the next 4 or 5 years. We have to pattern interrupt this psyop. The other interesting thing about that message was that there was no mention made, and there has not been any mention made throughout that I could hear, of independence. Now, certainly for the constituencies that I've looked at, there is an independent candidate in every single one. Some of them, like York Central, which is Roger James's constituency, York Central, there are 4 independent candidates. Check out the hashtag Independence Day on X, Twitter, and tune in to the level of people who are standing as independent to speak truth to power and to pattern interrupt the system. We are being deluded into believing that there are only essentially 7 choices according to BBC Radio 4, which are, if I can remember them all, the Con Party, the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, the Greens, SNP, Plaid Cymru and Reform. Those are the 7 that are being presented as your only options in this election. It's not true, folks. You have another choice. There is another possibility. So when I get back to base camp after walking Kobe, I shall be writing to Ofcom to lodge a formal complaint, because there are rules and regulations. The rules and regulations of the system are that during an election period they have to give fair coverage to all the candidates. That could be all the parties, but surely it should be all the candidates, because if there's an independent candidate standing in all 650 seats, and I'm pretty sure that every constituency will have at least one independent, at least on average there will be 650 standing independence should be acknowledged. And we may well not have a leader as such, but there are very many high-profile independents standing in this election, not least Jeremy Corbyn. Andrew Feinstein is standing, Holborn and St Pancras against Keir Starmer, and of course Andrew Bridgen for, I think, Northwest Leicestershire, just to name 3 high-profile independents. So that was the first thing that made my blood boil. The second thing that was really interesting to listen on the news was Macron's decision to hold a snap general election, because in the European elections, what they described as far-right party won a huge amount of votes and seats. And so Macron has decided he's going to declare a snap general election, and everyone is saying on the mainstream media that we need to be very worried about this far-right extremism which is sweeping in across Europe. Now, let's zoom out of the minutiae of that and let's consider what is truly going on. Because, of course, Macron is not acting independently in terms of France. It's not like this has nothing to do with us. He is deeply embedded in the World Economic Forum, like Rishi Sunak and like Keir Starmer. And the World Economic Forum is losing its grip. People are getting wise to the realization that all of these leaders, all of the leaders who took us to hell and back through the COVID fiasco, people are starting to question, and people are starting to think about alternatives because they're losing trust in Labour and Conservative, because essentially most people are starting to wake up to the realisation that it's a uniparty, that they're both cheeks of the same arse, and you've got this red and blue Punch and Judy show where the baton is passed from one party to the next. So 1997, Tony Blair swept to power with the Labour Party, all wonderful glory. Oh, it's all going to be different, going to be for the people. Instead, we were dragged into the Iraq War and we ended up having to bail out the bankers, and then suddenly the baton gets passed to the Con Party, who declared that we are going to have to tighten our belts and have austerity because we've got to clear up the mess that Labour left. But of course, they're both cheeks of the same arse. The people get poorer and the rich get richer. That is what has been happening for decades now. And we've had 14 years of Tory rule, and they are now at the bottom of the barrel, unlikely to get elected. And so suddenly Rishi Sunak declares a snap general election to pass the baton to Labour. Well, folks, it doesn't have to be that way. We can patent interrupt it. So, of course, the World Economic Forum getting panicky now. Suddenly everyone is not voting for their candidates. They need to create fear. That's one of the controlling mechanisms of the false matrix. Create as much fear as you possibly can. And what better fear to create? Well, we've already had the fear of war. We've already had the fear of Russia, nuclear war. But people are starting to rise up against that. People are starting to say, how dare you spend our money bombing innocent women and children in Palestine, for starters, and why are we sending so many billions to Ukraine when our own people can't afford to heat their homes due to the cost of living crisis? It's absolutely bonkers. So these World Economic Forum candidates are in real problems. So what else? What other fear can be created? Oh, the fear of far-right extremists taking over. People like me, standing as independent, speaking out against the system. Oh, you must be a far-right extremist. Oh, maybe you're an anti-vaxxer. Oh, you're a zealot. You're an extremist. You're a fan of Tommy Robinson, aren't you? All of these things are things which have been hurled at me by the mainstream media. They are desperate to label the people who are speaking truth to power. They're desperate to try to smear us and to write us off. So what better way to create fear amongst the masses than the idea that there is some kind of far-right extremist movement sweeping across Europe, a bit like the fascists in the 1930s, and oh my God, we really need to be scared. When in fact, the real totalitarian extremists are actually all of those leaders who've been put in place by the World Economic Forum. This is what we need to be aware of. And this is why we need to pattern interrupt the PSYOP, to speak truth to power, and to put forward the idea that there is another option, there is another possibility. The independent candidates are the wild cards in the deck. We're the wild cards. And it's possible, it's not probable, but there is a possibility that if enough people wake up, enough people realise that the party political system is not set up to support the people and look after the people. It's set up to make big corporations richer and to exert more and more control over the people. If enough people wake up to that, if enough people realise that we could sweep this away overnight simply by refusing to vote for political parties, it would be game over. That's my message today. Run over and sending you lots of love.